Leadership Story Talks, where we discuss the practices that engage, motivate, develop, retain, and attract people to businesses. We'll give you principles and tools based on real-world stories to leverage listening and storytelling to become a better leader and management professional. Leadership Story Talks is produced by Narrative, a company that focuses on personal storytelling for business.
Welcome to Leadership Story Talks. In this podcast, Julienne, Ryan, and I, Jerome DeRoy, discuss ways in which we can create more engagement in our lives, especially at work, because there are more people that say that they feel disengaged at work than they are people who say they feel engaged. We at Narrative deal with this issue through storytelling, and we do this by working with businesses and employing a 7-step methodology. We often have guests on this podcast that give us a variety of different insights and perspectives. And sometimes Julienne and I come together and discuss a very particular event, and we get practical and tactical about it. And today, that's what our episode is going to be. So hi, Jules.
Hey there, how are you doing?
Good.
So what's our topic today? I think I just gave you some inspiration. What happens when we're late or our timing and our schedule with all good intentions just isn't happening the way we had planned? So what do we do? So over to you, Jerome.
Yeah, that's just happened. I was late. I was the culprit in this instance. And many things circumstances happened, life happened, and I was supposed to be I was supposed to have an hour of my time dedicated to us recording, and then suddenly it's 5 minutes. So yeah, how do we deal? Well, I guess that I can go ahead and say the first thing, which is letting the person know that you're running late.
That's a big thing.
And using your phone to do so, I think, or whatever the best device and best method is to get through to somebody quickly. And I knew with you that texting was the best thing to do.
Yes.
So that was the first step.
Because I had muted everything. Unplugged everything, thinking we were going to do a recording. So that was your last hope, finding me by text.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right. And then, kind of we had a back and forth around what was going on and how we could deal with it. So I think the second step is come to some kind of agreement, right? And we agreed that we could still meet, albeit in a much shorter time frame. Rather than rescheduling and then it became, I guess the third step became about, so what will we do with the time that we do have, and hence here we are.
It's putting life into motion and using it for something. So meanwhile, back at the ranches, what do you do when you're managing your time and you're sitting there and you want to keep your energy going and say, I want to stay positive. I'm supposed to be videotaped in a few minutes. I can't look like a bit grumpy face saying what happened to my day. So figuring out ways you can be constructive, I found, like I gave people networking tips in a few minutes ago. Somebody was looking for a resource. I managed to get that done on my phone. I managed to do some little bit of research on LinkedIn. I managed to read all your text and then try to figure out what we need to do next, and just have some fun with it and change the mood. And I talk about that a lot because it carries forward. Giving somebody permission to maybe arrive in their meeting in the state they need to be in, just so they can just get rid of all whatever had happened in the room before, which you talk about in very elegant ways. But I keep saying, just switch it ourselves out and shift the energy and give that person a chance to show up and be reality-based.
Right. And I think, that is definitely something that you live by, because, I was able to, obviously this is all very frazzling when something like this happens, right? And you're running late and you want to do something well, et cetera. But you kind of took it in stride and were very supportive. And here we are able to do the work that we set out to do, albeit in a slightly different way. But actually, as you said before, using what's going on in the moment to our benefit and making it into something positive, as opposed to, if we'd rescheduled, I would have probably been beating myself up the entire day, and if it was somebody else, maybe I would, but I think there was also your willingness to kind of go with that flow.
And then I was stretching in the shot 2 seconds ago. Usually I have my book on top of my bookshelf, but I had moved it behind me. So it's like, do what you preach to, give that person a chance to show up. Now, what's in your favor is that you usually show up, and you're usually pretty on time, like give or take a minute or two. So that also sets the stage that you have good standards of using time and being present for that person and listening. So that buys you some, money in the bank, basically.
Right.
So you're not doing this all the time, because you'd be given a different look for me. Yet another day of not showing up or being missing in action someplace. So we can give somebody more space when we know that their intentions are good and they have the best habits to get and to show up. And it's challenging because in cyberspace, you can't run down the hallway and knock on the door and say, hey, you coming? So we have to kind of get creative in how we track somebody down.
Yeah, I love that. These are great, great points and great advice, I think, for people who, who just need to go with the flow, maybe a little bit more, and deal with these kinds of situations. And I would invite everybody who's listening to, think about these situations that you find yourself in where something isn't happening as planned. How can you make it to your benefit? And who are you dealing with? What are they like that, perhaps this can be turned into something positive, as opposed to staying in a negative space and, hanging on to how things were supposed to go.
Mm-hmm. And use plan A, B, and C. I'm a big believer. A lot of times people just send one message and they say, I called you. And I'm like, well, that wasn't enough. Like you can't anticipate somebody's looking where you're looking. We have the good news. We have a lot of options. Now, I don't know about you. Now I have Slack. Now I have LinkedIn. So I have to look in 15 different places for a message. But when you're late or you're, things that use everything you got and, be as creative as you can.
Yeah, that's when those come in handy. Fantastic. So another great example, I think, of what you talk about a lot, which is the balance between the humanity and the technology, right? Like what are the things that make sense for us to be in relationship, and then where does it make sense to bring in the technology to support that? So great. Well, wonderful. We said this would be a short, tactical and practical episode, and there you have it.
Very good.
Any parting words, Jules?
Just hang in there. And assume good if you can.
Yeah.
Most of the time, assume something happening, and they probably have a good reason for it. So.
I love that. Well, I'm going to remind everyone that about your book, Jules, Learned It in Queens, and we'll make sure to put that into the episode notes as well, because it really contains a wealth of insights and tips, for better communication in all kinds of situations. Really a great resource. So thanks, Jules.
That was nice.
Yeah, of course.
That makes up for everything, as I smack myself in my face with the cord. We're keeping it real. That's all I can say. So anyway, have fun and have a good afternoon. Until our next time of getting together, we'll be
so much.
Waiting and listening for you.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for listening. As usual, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, because that's what drives the word of mouth. And as always, please visit our website, narrative.com. That's spelled NARATIV.com, for more information on how you can find, craft, and present the stories that will engage your audiences like nothing else has before. We are always ready to listen, so please don't hesitate to get in touch. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening.
Cheers.
For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method and how it can help your business, go to narrative.com.